pretty high now.
It's
I'm not
become
hearing any talk about Skype anymore.
no, it's become the thing, hasn't it? You know what? I always wanted to do remote interviews at some point with my old show, and
Yeah,
just so I could get more shows out and I could do quicker shows, you know, rather than traveling up and down. But the technology wasn't there at the time, I didn't think, and
sure.
and it seems to be here now, and everyone else is doing it. And if it's good enough for the BBC, Sky Sports, and WWE, I mean, they're doing all sorts of shows that, you know, seem strange to us at the moment, but they seem to be working.
Yeah,
And people are watching them, you know. So I thought,
absolutely. All my UFC shows as well.
yeah, well, there you go. Exactly. That could be the future, you know, crowdless
Absolutely.
shows.
Mm.
I think it'd be okay watching it at home on TV, but I think for the participants, it might be a bit difficult, especially in a sports arena. I think that the crowd obviously adds that element to it as well, doesn't it? To get the adrenaline
Absolutely.
going.
It definitely affects performance, you know.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, the UFC just recently started, so they were like the first sports organization to begin again during lockdown. And you know, as a fan watching from home, everything's exactly the same apart from the crowd. But with the fighters, there was different things going on. For example, the commentators were telling us what's happening at home, but the fighters were also listening because the whole place was silent, the arena was silent, right?
right. Yeah.
So they were taking the advice of the commentators and all sorts, but they were even complaining of performance being affected as well. And the question comes about, which is, why are we in an arena if we can just be in some gym, you know, so a much smaller place? What's the point of hiring out an arena if it's empty, you know?
Yeah, you can be in a smaller gym, couldn't you, and do it? So that must be odd for a fighter, because if they're not doing so well, and the commentator's saying that, you know, that maybe they should do this and do this move, and he's in trouble now, he's in trouble, and the fighter's going to be listening to this, you know, it's going to be it's going to be off-putting, right? So I don't know. We live in strange times, and I think it's affected everyone in some way. And I know for you, I remember seeing some of your posts on Instagram, and you was hitting some personal bests on your lifts, and you was really going. Your numbers were going up in your squats, and I'm talking every other day. You was putting out a new number, and that's what it seemed like to me, across all the exercises really. And I think you was just really focused, and then COVID-19 happened. And you, like a lot of people, were.
Then I had to pull out the resistance bands. Yeah,
the resistance band. So you was forced to train from home. I mean, we'll talk about the training in a bit anyway, and what people listening at home could potentially do without equipment, or with some limited equipment at least. But for yourself, how did you handle that mentally? I mean, that must have pissed you off, basically.
I've got to be honest, it did, because like you said, I was posting a few PV videos, and it was probably my most consistent period of training. Well, it definitely was my most consistent period of training since having a little one. And I think I was something like 16 weeks in of consistently, you know, showing up every single workout session and you know, gaining weight, which was my goal. And I was showing up.
That's always been your goal.
It's always been my goal. I don't know if that's because I'm just terrible at doing it, and I'm just kind of kidding myself that I'm, you know, putting 100% effort towards bulking, which is not the case, you know. When I actually successfully bulked up, I just realized what I was doing wrong all the previous attempts, you know. So there's a little element of that involved, which is just, you know, doing well for 2 weeks and then taking a week break, or, you know, my dead feels dodgy, I'm not going to eat as much today, that kind of thing. But you know, it was a really consistent period of training. I was hitting up bigger numbers that I've ever hit before. My joints were feeling fantastic. Everything was feeling great. It was looking like, you know, I might test out this powerlifting, you know, competing in some kind of drug-free powerlifting organization. And then, like you said, it just came, you know, it just came out of nowhere. So you're forced to adapt. And, you know, I didn't really necessarily take it too well initially, because it throws you off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is your time, you know, where you're able to get away from the family and, you know, maybe de-stress, or you know, you get to take a bit of the ugg out, right? A bit of the anger out.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
that happens at the barbell for me. So being stripped away from that release is definitely something it's difficult to handle.
Yeah, I think it was integral to your, well, it is integral to your life, and because I know that you're a morning gym goer. You like to set your day out going to the gym first. It sets you up mentally, physically. You feel good, and I think having that taken away from you and other people that do the same, it's a difficult shift, because you've got that space in the morning. Because I know with myself, I'm an early riser. Even if I'm not going to work out in the morning, I still get up early just by my routine, my clock, Sure. So you would have that space in the morning. I know you've got a young child that probably keeps you busy slightly, right? But that big chunk of your life, training, I know how important it is for me, for my mental stability and clarity, just for my well-being, and also just to be more focused and positive in life with my family. All that's down to me working out. Without a doubt, it's one of the top things in my life. It's probably up there. It probably is the top thing in my life that I need consistently to do, because I looked for a lot of things when I was a lot younger. Drink, drugs, food, just going out with friends, clubbing, any kind of thing to sort of make me feel good, which ultimately never did. It never lasts. But fitness and this sort of working out and sort of pushing yourself every day, that was the one that clicked for me, and it was the most fantastic feeling. So I felt for you, because I knew your numbers were good, and I didn't know you was considering potentially doing some competitions. Is that something that you're going to want to take on once we get back to normal life at some point?
I want to get involved in it. Yeah, definitely. It's been something quite similar to my idea of bulking up. It's just been something that's been there. I've never really put, really focused effort towards it. And I want to see what happens when I do. Going back about probably 5-6 years, I would always just look at the rankings and then just look at the drug-free powerlifting in the UK and see what numbers people are putting up. And I was like, okay, I'm in the top 10. Maybe when I get into the top 5, I'll test it out, and that's just it's a pretty rubbish mindset to have. Because, they always say that your first competition is not really about you competing with other people. It's about you putting up numbers so that you can compete with yourself, right? And it's nice to know that all of these years of effort have been for something. So it's kind of led me somewhere. And I don't see myself doing anything physique or bodybuilding related anytime soon. So strength's always been where it's at for me. And, I've done a few local strongman competitions and things like that. So I've always enjoyed strength competition, and I enjoy that aspect of it. Even if we take the competition out of it, I've always loved that aspect of it's about me trying to take my bench press from this level to that level, or take my squat from this level to that level. And what do I need to do? It's a bit like problem solving, right? You could be squatting 100 kilos, but getting a little bit of knee pain or something along those lines, So that's a problem to solve, because if you want to lift more than 100 kilos, you better do something about your knee pain.
Yeah.
So it's a nice. I see it as a project every time you're trying to add to a lift, and I've always been about that PB lifestyle. So it'd be good to aim towards something.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure you will do it once this gets back to normal. And that's another thing about training. You see, it's continuous improvement daily. I mean, people listening may be thinking they're not going to be able to obviously lift as much as you and your numbers. And I used to look at your numbers and I was thinking, shit, I'm not going to get near that. But then I realized it's not really about you, about myself and what I can do. So all I'm doing is increasing it every session I can. And sometimes, and I think this is where the parallels are with life and working out and training. I call it training rather than working out, it's like you can have it's training, because you're always learning, right? So it's about, you can have a really good day when you're training one day and you feel good and you're out and you think and the next day you could be lifting the same numbers and you feel awful.
Yeah.
Right. And you feel a bit despondent. You think, God, I was doing really well yesterday and I've done nothing wrong. I've not changed anything. But it's but then you go back and you try again, and you go back and you keep doing, and then you see a little breakthrough again, and then you got a progression. And it's a great metaphor for life. When there is a failure, you can't stop and sulk and think, well, that's it. Yeah. And it's the end of life now. I can't do nothing else. You got to keep going, and you keep going.
You keep showing up, right?
You have to show up. You keep persevering, and eventually you get through that hard part. And that's why I love training. It's one of my biggest loves, second to probably podcasting, but it's up there.
Yeah. No, I've seen you've got a proper setup at home, right? So you're loving it at the moment.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm my mate who's in the body. He's in the bodybuilding, right? Not strength, but just purely, And he goes, "You're like the king at the moment." He goes, "You're lucky you've got this rack, and it's pure luck. I had it. Obviously, I didn't plan on COVID-19 turning up in 2020. This was last year. It was a silly thing because my friend had it, and he's a drummer, and he wanted to buy a new pair of drums, and his wife said, "Well, you either need to get rid of the squat rack, or you can't buy your drums." So he texted me, he goes, "You want to buy a squat rack?" And I was like, "I don't know if I've got the room." And then I made some room, and I brought it all the way from Slough, and I drove it all the way up to Yorkshire, the back of my car. And it's just by luck I had it. And but yeah, it is the best purchase I've ever made in my life, and it's coming in handy now, obviously. And,
sure.
Because I was a member of a gym as well, just to see some other people. Solitary training can get, I don't really talk to other people in the gym, right? A bit antisocial, but it's nice having other people out and about, to see them.
Yeah.
And you do, and for you, did you had a training partner as well? Did you in the mornings? Did you go on your own?
Yeah, I did. We don't train together any longer just because of a routine shift, basically. So he shifted over to evenings. But yeah, it was always good catching up with him because he was stronger than me and everything. So
yeah, so it's a good motivator, isn't it? When you see
it's a massive motivator. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you find? Let's get into technicalities a bit about morning training and evening training. I know I read somewhere that if you're lifting heavy or you're trying to hit some big numbers, potentially evening training could be better because you've been fueling throughout the day with food. You probably have more carbohydrates in you potentially, rather than maybe training early because you're going to be fasted overnight. You may not have enough to eat. And how do you feel about it? You're lifting great big numbers 5 o'clock in the morning, which always annoys me because how does he do it?
Not anymore, remember, not anymore. That's one thing that's taken a big knock with COVID is you said you're an early riser regardless, right? With me, it's like I can get up if I'm going to the gym because I know I need to get up and get the session in. If I'm not going to the gym or right now, like for example, my routine shifted like 2 hours. But in terms of the differences, so yeah, it's probably there's going to be more research supporting evening training. It could be because of more carbs in your system. It could be because of your body temperature is going to be higher. You've been more likely to have moved around during the day, so you're probably going to feel a little bit generally better and more supple. But I always come back to this one comment which I had on. I was talking to a friend once, and she said to me, I can barely lift my mug of coffee in the morning. I don't know how you're doing all these big deadlifts first thing in the morning. And some people, genuinely feel that groggy and tired first thing in the morning. So it's probably not for them. But for me, it's been something I've been doing for probably since my uni days now. So it's going back probably about 7 years. And initially, I could actually perform just fine on an empty stomach, no issues whatsoever. Eventually, it got to the point where maybe my workout intensity increased to that point where I was really, really struggling, and I was feeling what everybody else was telling me, like I feel terrible 10 minutes in. I was beginning to get these feelings. So that's when I really introduced pre-workouts or some caffeine, at the very least. And that was just a game changer because it just meant that all of a sudden it feels like I've had a meal, even if it is a little bit artificial in terms of the energy. It's enough to get me into the gym and get my warm-up done. And that's enough to fuel the first exercise. And then obviously it's too late now. You're not going home until it's finished, right? Yeah. So that's always been the mindset. And I think, that there is definitely a difference. So it takes me much longer to warm up in the mornings. That's something I've noticed. So if I go in an evening session or an afternoon session, it might take me, 10, 15 minutes to warm up, and I'm ready to lift heavy. In the morning, sometimes it'll take me half an hour. So that's something that I've noticed, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, when I do train in the mornings, for me, it's very basic. I kind of have a pre-workout food routine. It's probably a protein shake, banana, maybe some carbs with some bread, and a black coffee, and that's me. I can't eat that much in the mornings. You see, if I could probably eat a bit more carbs, I'd probably feel a bit more stronger to maybe lift a bit more. But I'm usually, I'm just not built to eat that much in the mornings, right? And I don't know. So what do you have in the mornings? I'm literally asking you this for myself.
I mean, for somebody like yourself, it sounds like some fruit or some fruit juice would do you really good.
Right.
Something it's gonna be quick. Just reach out to a glass of orange juice or something like that. Quick energy, pretty quick digesting carbs as well. That's something that can work really well. And if I don't fancy taking a pre-workout drink, because I'm not the one to take pre-workout drinks kind of year round. I will take them for the really super intense sessions in my program. So like the heavy squats and the heavy deadlifting, them kind of sessions. If it's just me doing a hypertrophy session, or maybe the percentages aren't going to be pushed too high with my lifting, so I'm not going to be lifting too intense, I'll probably just have a glass of orange juice and some a caffeine pill, actually. So a 200 milligram caffeine pill. And the reason for those pills is because I got to a stage also where coffee was kind of going straight through me in the mornings, which is a common effect that some people feel.
I get that. I'm lucky, obviously, I'm at home. So, so it's a lot easier. But I've done it when I've gone to the gym and I'm in the car and I'm halfway through a routine and I have to stop, go to the bathroom, and I know what you mean. So,
the bigger noise, right?
yeah. So, I mean, for you, that's your routine, and then that sort of sustains you through your heavy lifting and
absolutely,
yeah.
So during the workout, I'm usually just having orange squash, something along those lines. Nothing, no extra carbs, no. Some people take creatine and stuff like that. I usually have creatine in my pre-workout drink. So I usually have a blend of caffeine, creatine, beta alanine, and something called citrulline malate, which are all science based pre-workout ergogenic aids. So they're very helpful to increase performance within the gym and help you with alertness and lifting.
So I'm a big fan of creatine myself. It's probably one of the most tested supplements out of everything, I think. So
it is, along with caffeine.
Yeah, it's safe, and I think I take about is it about 5 grams daily?
5 grams a day.
Yeah, in my post, I have it in my post workout.
Okay.
Do you know if is there a difference, or do people get too anal about pre and post, and make sure you have enough protein and make sure you have your protein within half an hour of putting down your last dumbbell, and if it's any later than that, you're losing muscle gains? I think a lot of it's nonsense, right?
Absolutely. So this is the classic Punjabi word for this is brikiyan, right? So this is where we're delving into brikiyan, right? So it's the very minor details. If we talk about things in terms of a pyramid, right? We've got the base layer, which is going to be the really, really, really important stuff because it's the foundation, right? And then as we grow up this pyramid, things get less and less important, right? They're far up there, or far down there, I should say, in terms of the priority list of what people should be focusing on. And unfortunately, a lot of people are focusing on that very top of the pyramid, the stuff that's not very important at all. So, whether you're taking your creatine pre or post, as long as it's in your system, that's probably the best, advice I can give there. 5 grams a day, regardless of timing. I've not really seen any research to show, pre is better or post is better. I've done both, not really felt any difference, so long as it's in your system and you're, especially as a vegan, so long as you're topping up your creatine levels, you're going to be fine, And the same thing goes for things like your protein shake, So people will, forget people like myself, you know, when I was going through the phase of learning and trying to get to grips with the whole process of fitness, you know, even I was walking home urgently, you know, I've got to hit my protein shake, you know, sorry, I can't chat to you outside the gym, I've got to go, you know. So we've kind of all been there, I would think, at some stage. You could put it down to marketing to sell more powders. You can put it down to various different things, you know. But ultimately, the most important thing with regards to protein is your total daily protein intake, you know.
Definitely.
So if we're talking about for protein intake, the pyramid, the base of that pyramid is definitely the amount of grams you're taking, you know. And, you know, whether you're taking protein pre or post, or whether it's 30 minutes post or 90 minutes post, is pretty irrelevant. And so long as the total goal is met, I would say it's negligible.
Yeah. So you want a consistent amount really throughout the day, rather than you know. So if you're missing out, if you just trained and it's an hour, 2 hours later when you have your next meal, I don't think it really matters. I mean, I've left my protein at home and I've gone to the gym and I've forgotten, and you know, you get caught up in life. And to be honest, I've had it. And
I know some people who would have dropped back
and got it. No, yeah, there was a time
I was probably that person at one point as well. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We've all done it.
Yeah.
So I started researching, and I follow people like you because you do put out great information. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you and I know you, but you do, and it's science based, and there's no bullshit behind it, which I really enjoy. And there is a lot of BS in fitness circles, especially on the online Instagram influencer play. But basics like, you know, I think I have a lot protein wise, a gram for a pound of weight, you know, so what I have about 183 a day, and that's really my target number out of all my sort of macros that I try and hit. Everything else, if I have to, you know, I'm a 40-40-20 guy, so 40% carbs, 40% protein, and 20% fat. But if the others are kind of all over the place, it's all right. But I want to hit my protein target. Is that am I doing the right? Am I going the right way?
Double thumbs up from me. So you know, the main things really are that your calories and your protein are in check, really. So if somebody's looking to gain weight or gain a bit of strength, you know, we probably want to be in a surplus. And your protein, so you mentioned a gram per pound, right? That's something that's obviously come out of the US because we don't use pounds here. But that's actually, I've got some good news for you. That's actually the upper end. So the actual amount we need is somewhere around about 1.5 grams to 2.2 grams. That's per kg of body weight.
Yeah.
So the upper limit of that comes to a gram per pound, right? So the reason why that's good news for you is if you're ever getting days where you're hitting 170, 160, you know, it's all good.
Yeah.
Your range is probably somewhere around about 130 to 180 for yourself, which is good. So so long as you're within that range, you're gonna be doing just fine.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people listening as well, we've got to remember that, you know, especially even for myself, we're not athletes. We're not going to need that top high amount of protein to, you know, to perform. You know, we're just normal people going about a day's work, you know. But obviously for athletes, they're going to need a lot more. They're exerting a lot more pressure on their bodies daily when they're training, and so that's for the protein. I mean, a lot of other misconceptions for people is carbohydrates and getting fat. I mean, there was a big thing about, you know, don't eat carbs after 6, don't eat carbs after 7, just protein. You know, the Atkins diet became so famous for that reason. You know, you're eliminating carbs. But it never really worked for me. I tried eating, you know, lowered my carbs. I had to feel shit. I felt tired. I felt lethargic. I felt irritable. And I thought, it's not worth it, you know. And I couldn't see much difference really in my training, and I weren't really losing weight until I worked out actually it's your you need your base level, you know, your maintenance level. You either got to be above it to put weight on or under it to lose weight, and that's kind of all it is, right?
Absolutely. So you touched on a really key thing earlier as well, which was you mentioned the 40-40-20, right? Personally, I have people or clients that I'm working with stay away from macro splits altogether, because it's probably another thing that's would fall into the category of just unnecessary. The reason I'm mentioning that is because when they've done research looking at calorie controlled diets, right? So if they split people into two groups, they're going to eat the same amount of calories, they're going to eat the same amount of protein, and that's really the key word there. So they're also protein equated diets. So it's calorie equated, but also protein equated. When they do this with the carbs and the fats, so one group might eat really high carb and really low fat, which is also a diet style, and the other group will have really high fat and really low carbs. So it's kind of the more low carb Atkins type, keto type approach. They actually found no difference in terms of how much fat lost over the course of whatever the study duration was. Usually it's about 12 weeks. So the interesting thing there is it kind of just depends on how much you enjoy it. So like you said, you felt like shit, right? We want to pick a diet type that's going to help us remain in the calories we need, but not feel like shit. That's the easiest way to explain it, really. We want to find a diet type which we're able to do and are able to sustain, not feel like shit, still sit and eat with the family, these types of things. And that's why I've kind of always recommended people keep roti within their diet, because the first thing is it's pretty easily done, because the calorie value of a roti is so low. 120 calories is like a bag of crisps, right? It's super easy to fit into anybody's diet. But also it means it's something that's usually made at home in an Indian household every single day. So you're far more likely to be able to sustain that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a family thing, it's a cultural thing. So that there's all these different elements that we're talking about here. So if somebody's trying to lose weight and they're trying to pick a diet, if I can help them understand how to keep roti within their diet, I just feel like they're going to have way more success. Rather than mummy mein roti nahi khani, I'm going to have my tuna and pasta, which is what I used to do, before I turned vegetarian. So and looking back at it now that I have that understanding of nutrition, it's like if I was to weigh the pasta and work out the calories, it'd probably be exactly the same as 2 or 3 roti. Because it's essentially made from the same stuff, right? So looking back at it now, it just sounds so silly. It seems so silly. I think everybody's just got this idea, that carbs after a certain time in the day is bad, or roti after a certain time, or roti in general is just bad, when it's just completely unfounded.
So really, for people listening out there, get back on your roti, don't deny yourself, because like you said, in my house, we have roti, it's a daily thing, or every other day at least. And you need a diet that you're going to be able to keep and sustain, because
it's a lifestyle, right?
Absolutely.
It sounds really cliche, but I really kind of hate the word diet, because it just kind of implies that you're going to do this thing for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and then you're just going to go back to living normally and everything's going to magically work out. When that exact formula is the reason why people see success and then they just go back to square one, because they haven't understood the habits and the principles. What they've done is they've just adopted a new diet completely, which is not them. It's not their lifestyle. Then they've just gone back to their original lifestyle, which made them get to that situation in the first place, So a good way to put it is look, you already have a diet. Rather than searching for another diet, let's just try to improve your diet, right? So you already have a diet. What you're eating every day is your diet. Perhaps we can add some salad here, and you could understand a little bit more about protein, and you could improve your diet. But to go from some people are in the situation where they maybe have to eat roti 2-3 times a day. To go from that to completely just go to what some fitness guru is saying, where look, you just need to forget that and forget being vegetarian. You're not going to make any gains. You need to be eating chicken and broccoli 3 times a day. How long is that actually going to last before that person says, you know what, this isn't for me, and to go back to what you said earlier, like there's a lot of BS in fitness, right? That's one of the reasons, right? Because we've put it kind of so high up on a pedestal that people feel like there's some sort of elite lifestyle you need to live just to get fit, when it's absolutely not the case,
Yeah. And I think people think they need to restrict themselves from things. They can't have that. They can't have that. You can only have, broccoli and chicken and nothing else, And I think that people are motivated at the beginning, like with most new projects and goals.
Sure.
But after a week, 2 weeks, it gets hard, it's hard work. And they think, and they'll drop off it and they'll go back to revert to their old ways. And then I say to people, things like Weight Watchers, Slimming World, Jenny Craig, all of them, they're kind of banking on you to fail because that's where they're making their money. They want you to be a returning customer. What business doesn't want a returning customer, right? So, I mean, even though they do put some good tools in and some of their sort of handbooks are good on nutrition, I think what they miss is that fundamental part about, you need to have a diet that you're going to be able to live with for the rest of your life. It needs to be sustainable. Sure. And there's nothing wrong, I don't think, in having, my big thing is, I know you're vegan, but my big thing is ice cream. I love ice cream, right? And
you can get vegan ice cream.
You can get vegan. It's not good though, is it? It's not like the proper stuff.
It's not as good, but it's getting there. That's basically a knock on every single vegan food out there, all the fake chicken that I eat.
Hey, in my house, we're not vegans. My kids love them corn sausages.
Yeah.
We devour them. The corn nuggets, for anyone, I'm not vegan, but I'm going to say, and I'm only messing around, wind you up because you are a vegan, but the corn nuggets are absolutely spot on. I mean, people won't know. I've got my kids have them, and they think it's chicken.
Yeah,
they've got no clue, and so I think, well, I might as well give them these. It's better than giving them meat. Especially nuggets. It could be any meat, grind it up and put in there, right? So, but vegan food's obviously taken on a massive step, leaps and bounds, especially since I spoke to you last time. That's a few years back now.
Absolutely.
I mean, the range is in my local Iceland. It's unbelievable. And the food is tasty now. It's that misconception, and people take the piss, don't they? Say it doesn't taste nice, but I don't agree with that anymore. I think that there's a lot of vegan food out there that's absolutely delicious, and I'll probably have that over chicken and that kind of stuff any day, if it's made properly. And I think that's whether I like it or not, that's the future of nutrition. It surely has to be.
I believe it is. At the very least, it's going to be lab meat, right? So they kind of they're going to remove the whole unethical side of it, I guess you can say. But it does seem to be that the gap is closing, in terms of the taste difference. Initially, especially like the last time we spoke, going back about 3-4 years now.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
There wasn't much on the market, and what it was could have been classed as quite rubbery and quite, just not very much a defined taste. It seemed like something was trying to copy, beef, chicken, or tuna or whatnot. But even just earlier, I had a new product today. And it was put on some pizza, and I could have sworn it was like tandoori chicken. From what I remember of tandoori chicken, going back about 10 years, it looked the same, it tasted the same. I said to my wife, I've got to check the packet, because it's getting to that point now where I think if you blindfolded people and put them at a table, they would not be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
And we cook seitan at home, probably on like a weekly basis. So whether that's just grilled or boiled, or on some occasions fried, it's getting there. Where we are refining it each time we make it, and it's really getting to the point where, I'm enjoying some fried chicken here,
Yeah.
And I've been sharing it with my friends who aren't vegan, or some of them are actually omnivores, and they love it. If we're gonna watch a fight night, if we're gonna watch some boxing or some UFC, and we're gonna get together, I'll make a batch and I'll take it over, and everybody enjoys vegan fried chicken, and we watch some fights, and it's good times.
Exactly. So it becomes a social thing. I think as it integrates more and more into society, and it becomes normal, and I think it has, it's become so big, and it's nothing like a big market out there for businesses to really invest. You've got people like Burger King, which is so ironic, making the Impossible Burger, and and you've got what's the other one? Subway. I've got the meatball It's a vegan.
Subway have got a few. So they've got a meatless meatball. They've got a veggie patty, which is also, they're both very high in protein actually, which is good for fitness people, fitness enthusiasts. You've got Greg's are in on it. You know, you can't go to a coffee shop these days without getting bombarded with 3 or 4 different options like Starbucks and Costas and whatnot. So it is really growing, and the beauty of that is the one area that the vegan market's always lacked in is, you know, just the general going out and trying to source some food.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't fancy walking into Tesco every time and picking up a salad or picking up they've done a falafel wrap for quite long, but you know, that gets boring after about the 90-second time, you know. So to be outdoors, away from home, and to have the option, okay, I can choose now from, you know, I can go to Greg's and have the vegan sausage roll or whatever it is they offer, or I can go to Starbucks and pick up something maybe a little bit more healthy, or I can go here or I can go here. It's nice to have that option, because I would say, like, for people trying to achieve their fitness goals, this is a question I get, you know, it's like, would I be at an advantage if I was eating meat? And I always say to people, no, really. If you don't mind spending a little bit extra on your food, and if you just try to understand the principles and that kind of thing, I would say it's no difference whatsoever these days. The area where I do feel there's a difference is the convenience when you're away from home, and even that is getting much closer now. You know, so you know, it's looking good, and there's no better time to you know, to try eating less meat than the present time. Because
get on the
I remember when
get on the vegan boat, right?
Yeah, as it were, yeah.
And I think for yourself as well, and other vegans out there, I think it's fact you can go to a restaurant, an all vegan restaurant, and sit there and not worry about going through the menu, and asking the waiter or the waitress, you know, is there cheese in there, and is there dairy? You know, in that restaurant, everything is going to be vegan. Sure. And you can have a nice night out, you know. Vegans deserve some happiness, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. One of my best friends, the guy actually sold me the squat rack, is a vegan.
Okay.
Yeah. So he sent me a link once. He goes, Sat, you got to watch this documentary. And I know you've probably seen it, Game Changers, and on Netflix. And I said, I'll watch it. And I thought, you know what? I stopped myself from watching it for a long time, because I knew it's going to be good, and I knew it's going to persuade me. And this is the weird thing about resistance against something. When someone's telling you, don't eat that because it's not really good for you, but have this, you know, it's good for you, you're going to feel better. And there's a resistance within me just to even watch the damn thing.
Yeah.
It's such an odd thing, right? And
I had that for years too.
It's such an odd thing, isn't it? You know, because you don't want to. I think it's about denying yourself that you may have been wrong all these years, right? And it's
hard to make change, right?
Yeah, it's so inbuilt. And then I watched it, Game Changers, and it's a fantastic documentary. It's very well made, and then I listened to the sort of the takedowns of it on the Joe Rogan podcast, and then he came on against the guy who made the documentary, had a face off between
with Chris Kressler,
right? And he absolutely tore him to shreds.
Yeah,
and it was you've obviously listened to it, and it's excruciating to listen on a podcast, because there was some long pauses in there where Chris Kressler was just lost. Because if that was an MMA fight, that would have been stopped.
That was a Khabib ragdolling, right?
Exactly, because even Joe Rogan was like, he goes, "You're smashing it."
Yeah, and that's hard for him to admit, if I'm honest. You know, there's probably, I mean, I've been listening to that podcast for probably 4 or 5 years, right? I'm a huge fan. I always keep up to date with all of them. It's what I listen to during my workouts. And even then, I can say it's probably biased. Well, it is biased towards low carb, right? It's biased towards that whole keto side or the carnivorous diet side. So for him to say that Chris Kressler was doing really bad, and for him probably not to invite Chris Kresser on ever again, I feel like it's quite a big step, because he likes to re-invite guests who agree with his line of thinking.
Yeah.
And a classic example of this is one of the most well-researched, well-educated people on fitness that have been on his podcast is a guy called Andy Galpin.
Mm-hmm.
And with anything with exercise science, nutrition science, there's a lot of gray area, right? There's a lot of it depends, that answer that everybody hates. He very much Rogan loves black and white answers. So if somebody's going to say to him, look, it's much better to be on a keto diet, he can resonate with that. It's great, okay, you're going to be back on for a second podcast, a third podcast and whatnot, when this guy, Andy Galpin, basically said to him, no, actually, it's more favorable to have carbs readily available in your bloodstream. It's a much quicker energy source. He couldn't wrap that concept around his head, even though it's basic science. And funnily enough, I've never seen him on again, despite like a lot of the fitness guys, a lot of the nutrition experts that I follow, all acknowledging that Andy Galpin was like the best brains for this area who's been on the podcast. So, to come back around full circle, it's quite big for him to have agreed that Chris Kresser did really badly. And, with regards to the documentary, very well made. I don't think anybody can argue with the production value. But in a way, it's the production value which kind of lures you in. And, we shouldn't be getting nutritional information from documentaries, And I'm saying that as somebody who's been vegan since 2015. So there was a lot of critique that even I had for it. And there was a lot of critique that a guy called Lane Norton had for the producer of the documentary, James Wilkes, the MMA fighter, for his arguments against Chris Kresser. And, it was going up levels. And, there was going to be a debate between Lane Norton and James Wilkes, which never really happened. But I think Lane Norton would have shredded him to pieces.
Right.
There was a lot of elements of exaggeration within the documentary, just off the top of my head. That whole scene where he was doing the battle ropes and, this is the leaderboard, he's got a big whiteboard and this is the leaderboard. And I think he's saying something like 5 minutes is the record, he's been vegan for 2 weeks and he's just there for an hour, just stuff like that. As a personal trainer myself, it's like, okay, there's a bit of an exaggeration there. It's like, it seemed like the camera just faded out and faded back in and the timer was all of a sudden an hour. And the other thing that really stands out to me is a lot of these plant-based doctors, they're always recurring on these documentaries, right? So they reappear on all of these, and it's the same bunch of doctors every single time, right? There's 8 or 10 bunch of vegan doctors, plant-based doctors who are out there selling their programs and they're selling their books. So there's a bit of financial bias there too. And the way they will talk about nutrition is as if this way of eating is a miracle, and it's amazing. And unfortunately, the research doesn't necessarily support that. And when you're talking about some of the strongmen, you remember the big, heavy guys in that documentary, right? And the athletes, and when they're panning across the table to look at their food, it's just filled with vegan junk food, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, just a minute ago you were talking about bags full of salad and your beans and your lentils and your salads and all of that kind of stuff. But when we're looking at what an athlete actually eats, it has to be a lot of vegan junk food, because the amount of energy they require, they're not going to get through the salads. Let's just be very honest, right? So there were these elements of dishonesty throughout, which I couldn't really take it seriously where I was at the time of watching it, as opposed to where I was when going vegan, which I would have thought, this is amazing, I'm turning vegan tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I mean, with all things in life, it can be almost like a vegan propaganda film. There's a meat eating propaganda film. There's all sorts of propaganda films out there. So, like you said, for me, when I watched it, I was like, because I'm not vegan, I was like, oh my God, that's it. I started searching vegan protein powders online. I thought, that's it. I'm going full hog. Obviously, get the protein powder in first.
Yeah.
And but then you start thinking. Well, for me, I started thinking about it, and you know, there's parts about, you know, when they talk to the firemen when I went to the
Yeah.
fire station, and they put them guys on a healthier diet, and I think they talked to them after 2 weeks. But then, if you think back at it, those guys have probably been on a crap diet most of their life. They're probably smoking, drinking, and they've been told for 2 weeks, have some salads, have some fresh fruits, try and go for longer walks, work out a little bit, stop smoking. And so if they're going to test them after 2 weeks of doing that, of course they're going to be better.
Sure.
Yeah. And so it's that balance,
the other argument
right?
you can make. The other argument you can make for that is, you know, I could probably jump onto Google right now and find equally as many examples of people who are doing the same. So they're getting the same results. They're losing weight. They're feeling fantastic on a carnivore diet. You know, because usually, like you said, these people are just living a normal lifestyle. They're probably eating a standard Western diet, which is pretty terrible. They're probably smoking. They've probably never made an effort to walk or to exercise or to even think about losing weight, right? So if you're going to take part in a study where all of a sudden, you know, you're cleaning up your food options and you're more conscious about your walking and you're getting out in the sun more, and therefore you're sleeping better, you know, there's going to be differences, right? Which are positive, which is great. But it's one thing to do that, but it's another thing to make that whole leap to say it's 100% because of the diet, which is, you know, it's just untrue, because what it's come down to is they've been in an energy deficit, a calorie deficit. And could that have been done with any other diet on the planet? Absolutely. There's literally thousands of diets, and any one of them could have had that same effect. So it becomes really, really tricky. But again, like you said, it is a bit of a propaganda film, right? So that's kind of what they're trying to sell, which is
So that's why I like talking to you. No bullshit, mate. You know, even as a vegan, you could have said to me, "No, it's a great film. Everyone should watch it. Get out your corn sausages, sit down, get together with your friends."
I've got mixed feelings about it, in honesty, because, you know, on one end, it's nice to show people that you can be an elite athlete on a vegan diet or a plant-based diet. And the vast majority of people think it's completely impossible. Like, okay, where are you going to get your protein from? You know, so simple questions like that are answered in the documentary. Is it with its masala? Sure, right? But what do you expect from a documentary, right? It's meant to entertain. It's meant to be a bit of propaganda. It's meant to. A lot of the vegan documentaries are meant to evoke emotional responses. You know, so like you said, it's no wonder people refuse to watch them, or they feel like they're going to have to sit down and really start to question their ethics and all sorts, because that's what they're designed to do, you know. And I've been through that whole phase of falling for them and researching, and, you know, eventually going vegan, which was a little bit of a more deeper reason for me. But now I'm at a stage where, you know, I understand the evidence. I'm looking at a little bit better, and I just don't believe all of that propaganda stuff. And even if I did, cool. You know, I would look for somebody who's in a similar situation to me, who's also strength training, and they're trying to optimize. You know, they're not just trying to, let's say, survive with a protein intake, because that's another thing you'll really hear a lot, which is, you know, vegans get just enough protein. It's fine. They get equal amount of protein to omnivores, but is that to survive, or is that to thrive? You know, that's the question. That's the type of question that I want to ask. So in that documentary, I believe they referenced a study which shows, you know, vegans get 75 grams of protein a day, which is just the same as omnivores. So it's completely fine. Well, actually, at the beginning of this, we talked about, you know, we need 1.5 to about 2.2 grams per kg of body weight if we're doing resistance training, you know, and if we're highly active and doing resistance training. So that's where I want to be. Can it help me get to that level? And the answer there, of course, is yes, it can. But why be dishonest about, you know, 75 grams is enough for everybody? Because it isn't. You know, none of the athletes on that documentary are consuming 75 grams a day. I can guarantee that.
No, that strong lifter isn't.
That strongman is on something like 250, 300 grams plus, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
He's had some of those day, you know, the day of eating videos, you know. And his is just filled with protein shakes. So
yeah, he's chugging away a lot of protein shakes. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
Absolutely. So, that element of, just being dishonest and not showing the full picture, I didn't like,
Mm. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. So probably for people out there, look, there's a range of diets or food lifestyles you can choose. You have to choose the right one. Sort of educate yourself. I think that's probably the most important thing. Go learn about nutrition. I mean, don't have to go so far into it, but at least the basics about what you're eating and what you're consuming. And now, obviously, because we're in a lockdown as well, are people cooking more at home? I see a lot of cooking posts on social media. Everyone's a cook now and showing me pictures of their meals they're creating and baking. Baking's really taking off online. So,
sure.
For people at home, who are, do you think people are cooking more now, more fresh? I mean, I haven't had a takeaway in 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it is now, and I've not really missed it. So I'm just eating things at home, and actually my training's sort of gone up a level because I'm not eating crap and I'm feeling good the next day when I get up because
Sure.
it goes over the night, doesn't it? If you eat a crappy meal in the evening, next morning you are lethargic and you are dehydrated. So do you think people are cooking more now, or are you?
I hope they are.
Yeah.
We are definitely at home. Yeah. I think initially there was this whole scare of we're not going to get atta and we're not going to get rice and whatnot. So everybody went out and stocked up and tried to, at least in our household, everybody has been trying different things and we were watching different recipe videos and YouTube and luckily my wife loves to cook anyway, so she's been trying lots of different things and we've been enjoying lots of food and because there hasn't been this whole shortage in supermarkets and whatnot, which we initially thought there would be. It's been good eating. I'm probably one of the only people who come out of this lockdown having lost a little bit of weight.
Yeah,
but it's been good eating generally.
Yeah. I think the reason there's a lot of rice around anyway. I spoke to someone else on a podcast. It's because all the English white people wanted pasta.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
they went crazy for pasta. What was it?
Pasta was off the shelf.
Pasta and toilet roll.
Don't ask about toilet roll. I still don't get it to this day.
I mean, what was that all about? That was absolutely ridiculous. And I think everyone's calmed down a bit now, and realised actually, you probably could survive without toilet roll and tagliatelle. But now I think the shops and supermarkets are fully stocked. You can go in there, get everything you need. There's the odd thing here and there that might not, run out. My favourite ice cream was ran out in Aldi. I went there yesterday. I might go after this actually. It's a high protein one. It's bloody cheap in Aldi. So
okay, they do protein ice creams in Aldi.
They have, and it's really it's lovely. And they're not sponsoring the show, by the way, Aldi. But I'm just saying it's cheap and it tastes absolutely amazing. I'll send you a picture. Sure. Yeah, you can't have it anyway. It's not. Yeah, but it's not vegan, mate.
I know, I can still get excited about it for my family, though, right?
I'll send you a picture.
Yeah. It's always nice to have extra options for everyone in the house, right? Because if one thing's come out of this lockdown, it's been that everyone's just been a bit more conscious about their health, right? I don't know if it's been for mental health reasons or physical directly, but everybody at home is exercising a lot more, which I'm super, super happy about because one of the pet peeves that PTs have is always trying to get their family and the people closest and dearest to them to exercise and have the same passion for their own fitness and their health as much as you do, and that's a very difficult task because, dealing with people in a different generation, like parents who they have never had this thought about health, it's always been about getting out to a different country and trying to settle and putting the graft in so that my kids can do what they want to do, and I respect that fully. But luckily my dad's always had that passion for exercise anyway. Maybe not wasn't in an advantageous enough situation to kind of have the same love for nutrition or but he's always had that passion for exercise, so for me it's been more of a challenge with like my mom and my wife and other members of the house, but everybody is now exercising a lot more. Multiple trips to the garage, which is I couldn't be any happier really, if I'm honest. and everyone's trying to improve their protein intake, and we're eating a lot more fruit and vegetables at home. So with things like the protein ice cream you mentioned, I do get happy because some people need these sort of transitional foods, and even I was the same, when going vegetarian or going vegan. You need these sort of tasty transitional foods which taste great, but also they give you the protein you need, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just picking up a random Magnum or something else from the freezer. If you can pick up something with a bit more protein in there and it tastes great, people are much more likely to stick
Exactly.
to it.
It's a win-win. And I think you've beautifully moved into the next sort of segment I wanted on the podcast. It's about the workouts and the routines. And for people, who are at home now, who cleared their garages from all the junk and and the suitcases that they take to India, and they've moved
Not
them to
the sewing machine, though.
Not the sewing machine. or the exercise bike with clothes on.
Yeah.
We've all had them. So people are now sort of, taking into consideration their health, because I think with this COVID-19, the pandemic, people have looked at themselves and thought, we are fallible. We can be affected by things in life, that's outside our control, and all we can control is at least our health.
Sure.
It's something we can do, because obviously on the news they say it's affecting people with certain issues, older people obviously who are going to have deteriorating health anyway due to their age.
Sure.
And then but people with asthma, high blood pressure, heart disease, and especially for Black and Asian communities, the minorities, so I think people are looking at their health in a different way now. And you're right, a lot of people are at home, pull up bars, press up challenges. There's every Instagram influencer I know has made some kind of home workout. There was tons out, right? And I know you
with
had
a towel or a bed sheet or
something or other, right? And
sure.
and I know you had something similar. So I wanted to get your sort of views on what people at home could do, specifically with very minimal equipment. I mean, without even dumbbells, maybe some bands or something like that.
Sure. One thing that I've always said is, if you've got the mindset to better yourself, that's essentially all you need. I had a conversation with somebody fairly famous actually once. I probably won't name them, but they were kind of showing off to me. So we're having a conversation about fitness and what can I do to lose my dead, and that kind of conversation. And they were kind of showing off to the point where they said, I've got this treadmill, it's state of the art, it's got a built in this, it's got a built in that, and it cost me $5,000. And he's talking about dollars because they were over in the US. And I said, okay, cool. How often do you use it?
Yeah.
He said, it's literally unpacked, never used. And I don't remember the time scale, but it was something that shocked me. So I was just like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And the point I'm trying to make there is, you can have the most grand setup. You can have the perfect barbell, which has a tolerance for 800 kilos, and you can have the knurlings and the clips that you want and everything. If you don't have the mindset that you actually want to bet yourself and you want to improve and you want to work on your fitness, it's all pretty useless, right? And likewise, if you flip it, so if we say, look, you've got absolutely nothing, you've just got your body weight, you've got the ground underneath you, you can get so creative if you've got the mindset to want to bet yourself. And luckily here in the UK, we've from the beginning, we've had this option where you can go out for an hour's walk, right? You can go out and get some exercise, you can get some fresh air. That's been fantastic. So it's bringing things back down to the basics. Let's just get out. Let's get in the sun. Let's get some steps in, So the golden rule of 10,000 steps a day, I feel like people have been adhering to that much better, just because they're trying to get out of the house. And also it's really helping people with their mental health too, right?
Oh yeah.
So some of these principles I think are really, really key. But when you can have your normal gym lifestyle and everyone's allowed to live normal like pre-COVID, it's something that's pushed far back, which is what I noticed with people. So they're not necessarily too concerned with things like the step count. But now I feel like it actually is something that people are considering a top priority thing, which is fantastic. With regards to which exercises you can do, so I put out a routine pretty early into lockdown. which was 24 different exercises you can do just from home with basically nothing. So, whether we're talking about things like push-ups, fantastic exercise, can be scaled to any level. I don't care if you bench press 300 kilos. I don't care if you don't have the strength to do a single knee push-up. For those people, we can get you up against the wall doing wall push-ups. It can be scaled from everyone from elderly to the obese, all the way to like elite level powerlifters with huge, massive bench presses can benefit from some type of push-up. And if I had to put a number to it, I'd probably say there's like hundreds of variations of the push-up out there. So there's no shortage of creativity, providing you've got that initial ug of, I want to better myself. I want to spend 10 minutes today trying to do something I previously couldn't. Maybe I'm going to work on abs, maybe I'm going to do a quick abs circuit. Maybe I'm going to do some push-ups because I can only do 2, maybe I'm going to work up to doing my first ever pull-up. These are great goals that people can have. And I feel like if people set performance goals, and there's no better time to work on your body weight strength, So working on things like your push-ups, your plank times, the amount of pull-ups you can do with good quality. Maybe it's your goal to do headstands. I've been talking to lots of people who've been watching yoga videos and they want to do a headstand, and maybe they've seen me do a headstand, so they're getting in touch, what was your process? And I'm more than happy to share my protocols and some of the videos that I followed. But I really think that there's a few key things for people within lockdown. One is it enables people to get really, really creative with their training. The other thing is if you can set performance goals as opposed to, I want to lose a stone, or I want to gain some muscle, or something very kind of broad like that. If you can set performance goals, I feel like people will show up daily. And people will do the reps necessary, or the short time, whatever little time you have, be it 10, 15 minutes. So long as you're showing up and doing something every day, I think you feel pretty good about it pretty quickly. Setting a performance goal, like trying to achieve whatever it may be, your first pull-up, 10 push-ups or 10 clap push-ups, or a single arm push-up, or what I've been doing is these crazy finger push-ups, which I've only recently started to post. But
you've been looking at Bruce Lee too much behind you.
Bruce Lee, yeah.
He used to do them, didn't he? Did he used to do finger? Yeah, he did. He
used to do one hand and 2 fingers.
Yeah.
And just the other day, actually, I managed to do 2 hands like that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm getting there, man. I've got to be honest. I think I'm getting there. I'll post it on Instagram when I do it.
Yeah. So you've got your own goal as well. And I think probably what you're saying for people out there is start with small goals and build up. Go for your walk. You can go for 2 times. You can go for exercise outside now.
Yeah,
so
it's increased now. Yeah.
So maybe you could do 5,000 steps in the morning, 5 in the evening.
Sure.
Or build yourself up slowly. And you're absolutely right about body weight. I mean, like I said, I'm lucky I've got the weights at home, but sure. I did some press ups because it was that 10 press up challenge. So I was filming myself doing these press ups, and then the lighting wasn't good, so I took it to another room, and then I did them again, and then my kids walked in halfway through, and I think by the end of that, by the time I got the video I wanted, I must have done about 90 press ups.
Wow.
Obviously, having a break, doing them, having a break, going. But the next day when I woke up, I could feel my chest was full. You know, you have that. Sometimes when you wake up in the morning, depending on what you've eaten the night before, you can feel. I've never had that of any bench press days I've had, but when I did the press ups, because obviously body weight, it was just, I think it worked muscles that were probably not being used when I've been benching. My form probably wasn't correct, and I probably wasn't going as deep as I can with the bar. But so I've incorporated that now. So every time I got a bench day, a chest day, they're my finishers, press ups.
Sure.
Yeah, right. And I love them. And I've embraced the bands as well. I brought some bands. I didn't need to. And they're my favorite thing. Face pulls are the thing that I love the most. Yeah. They're my finishers, face pulls, fantastic exercise. Absolutely, so I've been learning from watching these home workouts, tricep dips on a chair. I think that's on one of your exercises, right? And I thought,
yeah. I use this office chair I'm sitting on right now.
Yeah, so I was like, I've got a chair at home. It can't be that hard, So because I've got dip bars, but the tricep on a chair, fantastic.
Mm.
And if you can do it at a certain pace, it's a great little cardio as well.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
and so I'm loving these little people are very inventive out there, like yourself. You know, you're very inventive with some of the exercises, and I thought, yeah, that's brilliant. I love that because it's easy and you can do it at any time. You
Sure.
know, you can have a spare 5-10 minutes. You can do a few tricep dips on a chair, can't you? You know, when you're sitting
Sure,
around.
sure.
And I know not everyone out there is going to be doing things like that, but, but I do.
I mean, I've got to be honest. I've had the opportunity to buy a lot of equipment, right? And for me, I guess I'm lucky because I started off training at home. So my first year of training was all done at home. It was all kind of desi and a lot of push-ups and running up and down stairs. And then we bought a home gym system. So, you know, the ones that have like the pec deck and the leg extensions and the bench press and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I outgrew that within a year. So we kind of got rid of it eventually. But I've understood what it's like to train from home. But having said that, even I really struggled when lockdown hit. Because, you know, things were going so well in the gym and my routine was fantastic and everything was so timely, the way I get home and I have to feed my son and, you know, everything's just, it was just perfect, right? It really did hit me for six when lockdown happened. And because I was so busy with like making all this content, you hit on a really key thing there, which is, you know, just to make a simple one push-up challenge video, how many times you have to actually repeat the process, right? So to make the video that I put out with all the exercises and the routine, it put me out for a week, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, of course.
The amount of times, barely I had to record 24 exercises. And then you've probably had 4 or 5 different takes because, you know, okay, this video is too long. People aren't going to watch it. You know, I need to explain the exercise in an even shorter time. And then you've condensed it to 3 minutes, but now it needs to be 2 minutes. And eventually I got to a point where I've done my first day of recording. I was super sore, like I've done a full on workout. And by the time I got to the editing stage and I was really happy with everything, I was just too spent to do anything, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the initial phase. And then after that, it's like I was just a bit lost because, you know, I've spent all this time lifting really heavy weight and I'm feeling fantastic. The issue I was having was I was trying to mimic that at home. And I feel like that's the issue that a lot of people have. They're trying to mimic exactly what they're doing at home. And obviously, if you don't have the bench press or you don't have the squat rack or you don't have the kettlebells, which you can do your hip thrusts and your goblet squats with, if you don't have that at home, you're just going to feel very lost, right? So what I tried to do, and even as a, you know, a PT myself, what I tried to do was just flip it a little bit and say, look, you're going to have to spend time adapting and doing things that you probably don't want to do, but we can turn this into an enjoyable process by getting creative, getting more used to bodyweight exercises, and just understanding that, you know, you might not necessarily directly be able to work on your squat, your bench, or your deadlift, which is, let's be honest, what we want to do. But if I can, I don't know, do some finger push-ups like this, which funnily enough, initially I was only able to do 3. Can you believe it? I could bench press 120 kilos, but I could only do 3 of these. So I thought, okay, there's a weakness there somewhere. My fingers must be just really weak, right? My hands must be really weak. So I thought, if I work on this every day, it's going to get better. It's bound to bring something back to my strength when the gyms reopen.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's trying to just put a positive spin on it and trying to actually say, well, it's probably more about mental health at this stage and trying to have fun and that kind of thing. Rather than, you know, just constantly thinking about your lifts and, you know, I'm so ducky because I can't do squats and I can't do deadlifts, you know. And I've had the opportunity on numerous occasions to buy some really solid equipment, like a setup like yourself, right? But I've just turned it down every time because I said, you know what, I'm super happy with what I have right now. I have 60 kilo of weights, which is nothing for someone of my strength level or somebody who's 10 years deep into their lifting. But I've been able to really get creative with it. I've been able to do exercises I've never thought of doing before. I've been able to prioritize body weight strength and just really have fun with my training and just show up every day. And that's been what's really been helpful to me.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some crazy Americans. Usually we say Americans and crazy, and they're building these absolutely amazing squat racks out of timber. and
I've seen
you've seen them, right? And some of them are amazing, right? And they've painted them, and they've
I've got to be honest. I've got to be honest. If there's anybody who should be doing that, and even coming from a point of view of somebody who creates social media content, right? I could kill it if I made stuff like that, and it couldn't come from anybody better than me. And the reason I'm saying that is because that's literally the family business, right?
Yeah.
My dad's been in construction for over 30 years. I've been on building sites since I was a kid with him. We know our way around timber. It's very, very easily done. Yeah. But it comes back to that thing. I've just been so content with how I'm getting on with bodyweight strength and how I'm feeling, and how I'm actually really enjoying training at the moment, which I didn't 6 weeks ago. But and because we're really just enjoying it, and the whole family's getting active, and we're trying new things and all that, we just haven't seen a genuine reason to get out in the garden. And we'd love to. Don't get me wrong. I want to give my old man a project or two to do, but for me, it's like as soon as gyms reopen, I'm going to be back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be kind of a waste, but also that's the easy part, right? We can make a squat rack in probably a day or two. We can make a bench if we want to. We can make anything essentially. The real thing is getting enough weight, right? And as you've probably seen, the prices have hiked up to crazy amounts.
That they have. And I mean, like you said, what it does show is that humans are so adaptable. We can adapt to any kind of and that's how we survive for so long, for all these years. And this will eventually, I don't know if it'll be over or finished with it, but we'll adapt. It'll be times when we do get back into the gyms, and it's going to be a great day when we do get back into gyms.
Absolutely.
It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. I'm going to ring you.
Yeah. It'll be good to have a chat like that.
Yeah.
About PBs and
Well, it'd just be nice to go back in and see a bit more normality.
Sure.
And so, look, you've given us, obviously, people, rather than we could talk about our routines, we could talk about all them exercises that you thought of. Probably be better if people just go click on your link, right, and then go watch it, right, rather than us explain it on an audio. But what you're saying is, if you could come out of all them exercises, and you've added a game element to it as well with a dice. So
the quick reasoning behind that was I feel like, if we have to wake up and we have a choice, right, we're probably going to go back to bed, right? So it's like, if we can eliminate choice, I think it's always a good thing. So with workouts, I feel like if I can introduce something fun, so in this case it was the dice, right? So the dice determines which exercise you're going to do. So each workout consists of 4 exercises only. It can be done within half an hour. I've had some cases back of half an hour workouts. It's a push exercise, it's a pull exercise, a leg exercise, and an ab exercise. So it's a complete full body workout. And we eliminate the choice element by saying, okay, you're going to roll a dice. There's 6 different exercises for push, pull, legs, and abs. And whatever number it lands on is the exercise you're doing for that day. So it keeps things novel. It keeps things fun. And it also means you have a possible 1,200 plus workout combinations, which is fantastic, because people do not necessarily want to repeat the same workout twice, right?
No.
Which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's also understandable. So I just found that was a good way to keep things fun. So there's, it's all detailed out in the post, and there's a video to show everybody how the exercises can be performed also.
Yeah. So where's the best place that people could check out your work? Is it your website? Instagram?
100%. It would be my website. So it's azadsinghfitness.com, or over on Instagram, which is Azad Singh, where the I is replaced by a number 1.
Okay, I'm going to put that link on the notes on the podcast app, so people on the podcast app can just click it while they're listening. It will take them to the website, and they can get rolling. Get that dice rolling, start doing some exercising. And really, we've come to the end, Azad. It's been great speaking to you. I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, right. It's been a good chat, man. Like you said, we're going to talk about Rogan. One thing we didn't talk about is the Rogan Spotify.
The what? Oh, all right, that's it. We didn't, did we? And that was one of the things I messaged you about as well.
Yeah.
I did say to you at the start of this, I don't really know what I'm doing. But yeah, he has now gone to Spotify. And so eventually he's saying by the end of the year, even his YouTube channel will go, right? Is that correct?
It seems strange, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it does seem strange until I thought about it. They must paid him a shit ton of money because
I've heard two different numbers, and 100 mil and 200 mil are the two that I've heard.
Yeah.
I'm just interested because I've always thought he's against that kind of thing, right? So I'm interested to see if he gets censored and if there'll be some sort of production over him. But in honesty, if he signed a deal, I don't think he would have.
I don't think he'll do it because he always mentions on his show, doesn't he, that people call him a shill, even if he does something, you know, by the man or some corporate sort of entity. So it is interesting. He's obviously done it for money. To be honest, probably I would have done it as well if I had the opportunity. But it'd be interesting to see how his show does, because he does do some risque interviews, and some of the people that he has on, like we spoke about, the experts may not be the experts probably in that subject. But you know, he's got a big show. It's going to be interesting. I'm a big fan of his. He's the podcast king, really. I would agree. So 100 million Spotify. And on that note, I just want to tell everyone I'm on Spotify as well.
Awesome. I've got an account somewhere.
Pull it out, mate. And then but Azad, look, it's been great. It's been a nice evening. I've spoken to you about nutrition, training, vegan food,
delicious vegan food. I'll have to invite you over for some fried chicken at some point.
I'll be round, and I'll bring the ice cream and and mental health. And I think we've covered quite a lot, and I think people will enjoy it. We'll have to do another one. We'll possibly do one when the gym's open, and that'll be just for me and you to say how happy we are. We'll do it right after the routine, because that's when the adrenaline's going and the endorphins are kicking in. It's going to be the most happiest podcast we've ever made.
TV day, right?
Yeah, exactly. And look, muscle memory is a thing, right? So I'm sure you'll be hitting them numbers.
Absolutely.
Azad, look,
it's been good, a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, anytime, and we'll do another one real soon. We can do it again like this, so you know there's no traveling, and we can do it anytime. All right, but Azad, thank you. Like I said, I'm going to put your website address on the show notes, and people can catch you there. But
I appreciate it.
No problem. Take care, and we'll speak soon.
Take care. Cool. Bye-bye.